judged him from third parties. I've met few people who have judged him from his actual sources. And yes, there are contradictions in the type. Sometimes he said one is sahih and he said is da'if. There are some contradictions like that. But which scholar hasn't made mistakes? Every scholar makes mistakes. Just because of that, you can't just discredit the Shaykh. And the Shaykh, you saying that he hasn't got a chain to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I would say to you, al-ayad billah. That is absolutely incorrect. The Shaykh has studied under other shuyukh. He has got shaykhs who studied under other shuyukhs up to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes, the difference is there. I've told you in Hadith of Banu Qurayza that there was a holistic and literalist approach. That just divide got wider and wider. Today, people who say, follow madhab, don't follow madhab, they're of the same two categories, my brothers. There's no difference. It's just the divide has become wider, that's all. They both exist. I'm not saying to you, follow anyone, no. I personally follow the Hanafi madhab, and I've got reasons to follow madhab because I've told you it saves you from whims and desires. Another thing it saves you from is that if everyone is given the license to open his own madhab, and if everyone can just look in the Quran and Sunnah and say, Akhi, one guy said to me this, he said, Akhi, I've got my Bukhari set. And so I said, so what? So what you got your Bukhari set? He said, but Akhi, I've got my 9 volumes, I'm basically reading it. Yeah. He said, what are you reading to me? And that time, about 20 years ago, I said to him, I'm reading syntax and morphology. Grammar. He said, you're reading syntax and morphology? I'm reading Bukhari. I said, yeah. I said, there's a difference between me and you. The difference between me and you is that I basically read syntax and morphology, and in the end I reach hadith and Bukhari. You start from Bukhari and get confused and end up on syntax and morphology. I'm telling the truth. That's what's going to happen. Brothers who haven't studied the Arabic, you're going to start looking at Dr. Muhsin Khan's translation of Bukhari. And I'll tell you, you bring me Dr. Muhsin Khan's translation, I will find you, even if it's a small mistake or a big mistake, I will find you a mistake in every single page of his work. Every single page, because the guy is an Arab, he's not an Englishman. You're supposed to translate in your mother's tongue. It's a general rule. You translate in the tongue, that's your first language. If he had a work of if he knew both languages and translating in Arabic, he's doing a fantastic job. But he's an Arab and he's a doctor in some medicine or some other thing. And he translates Sahih al-Bukhari, and he's made loads of mistakes in that. And brothers are out there thinking, man, they've covered the whole of the deen because they've got 9 volumes on Sahih al-Bukhari and that's it. Even if you do cover all of that, what you don't understand is you still got Muslim left, and you got Abu Dawood left, and you got whole of Tirmidhi left, and you got Ibn Majah left, and you got Muwatta left, and you got Tahawi left, and you got Tabrani left, then you got Dawud Qutni left, and you got Hakim left, then you got Bazar left, then you got so many these. I can carry on. And that will take you half a lifetime to cover. And then you've only just covered hadith. You've got the whole of tafsir and Quran to cover, and the lugha and the language to cover. My brother, don't quote these things where, you've just become a scholar just reading a book or a couple of verses. Alright. Now again, these fatwas, okay? Someone's asking about a fatwa on a certain thing, okay? Fatwas are specific to a certain group and so on, right? Fatwas, a sheikh might give a fatwa, that's his understanding at that time. Fatwas change over time. So please don't start fights with fatwas as well. Best thing to do, all I'm saying to do is, look, whatever you've been doing, this is what I tell my kids at the academy that I teach, Safar Academy in North London. I tell them straight up, I will teach you the Hanafi way to pray because we need synthesis, we need unity in the class. I can't teach 4 different madhabs or 5 madhabs in one class. I will teach you Hanafi. Well, I tell them this, I say, when you go home, pray the way your father prays. If your father does Raf'ul Yadayn at home, I'm going to teach you without Raf'ul Yadayn. I'm going to teach you just once raising your hands. If your father at home does Raf'ul Yadayn, you go home and just always pray like that. But just for unity's sake, I'm just going to do, and just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to teach one way. If your father at home prays with Ameen loudly, you do Ameen loudly. But I'm going to teach you Ameen quietly. Simple. I'm telling you brothers and you sisters do the same thing. I'm not telling anyone to leave your backgrounds, whatever. If you want to research, you go and research, fine. Go and meet other imams, that's fine. If you want to do that, fine. But I'm telling you, look, most of the groups I've taken names of, in fact, almost all of them I've taken off. I'm telling you that stay where you are. Okay? If you want to do further research, then do proper research. Go and talk to the imams themselves and then understand their fiqh and terminology and so on. If you're not going to do that, you think that you might get brainwashed, right? Stay where you are, because none of you are on the wrong path. you understand? You're all practicing, brothers, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. But the thing I was just mentioning earlier is that if everyone has a license to have their own religion, own madhab, and if every Tom, Dick and Harry becomes a mufti, then you're going to start having a lot of problems in the deen, because that's what you got today. A lot of the people out there, Muslims, so-called, and I call them Muslims, but so-called Muslims out there that are just committing suicide, bombing and so on, they've got, you know who their Shaykh is? The Shaykh is themselves. He, himself, and whatever his name is, the three of them. One person, yeah? Trinity, sorry. He is everything. He's the reference. He's everything, right? My friend, you can't do that. And there's even certain imams, they make themselves the judge of the entire country, and they made it themselves. Who gave you the authority as a judge? You're supposed to get elected as a judge. Other people are supposed to make you as a judge. You just make yourself as the judge of a country. You declared it yourself, you became it, you got your throne, you bought it yourself, you sat on it, and then you got your little crowd and you said, I'm the judge of the whole country. My God, ittaqillah, have fear of Allah. You can't do this. You can't just declare a station and a maqam. People have to accept it and give it to you and so on. And, that's how things work. So, these problems, a lot of shuyukhs are telling these people, don't go around suicide bombing and this and that. And they won't listen to them. They'll say to them, you're bid'ah. They say, you're haram. Your understanding is wrong. Their own teachers, they're telling them. Because the guy studied so much on his own that he's now found himself to be correct and his teacher to be wrong. There's problems like that. So please, stick to the places, do more research if you have to. If you feel you're going to be brainwashed, stay where you are. Nothing wrong with you, unless somebody can tell me right now that there's a very big deviant group I haven't mentioned. Please mention it now, otherwise we're going to close the session. Okay. If people follow only Quran and they say the Sunnah is not, there's really no space for them. All right, there's no space for them to be true Muslims. Okay. In fact, these people will become straight deviants because they will start denying things in hadith, and they'll start saying that this is not there. This is in hadith, so I'll leave it. I've met someone like that who just follows the Quran. I said to the brother straight up, I said, okay, the Quran says aqimus salat. How are you going to pray? How do you pray? He says, I bow down. I said, why do you do that? Why do you basically make one rak'ah? There's no such thing in the Quran as rak'ah. Why do you pray 2 rak'ahs? What's such 2 rak'ahs? That's all in hadith. He says, well, I accept mutawatir hadith. I said, listen, you're going to start rejecting, accepting. You won't have much of the deen left. And I was there arguing with him for several hours, but he wouldn't accept it. So what I would say is that there really isn't much scope for these people.
So are they out of fold of Islam?
Again, with such people, you have to clearly talk to them and make them understand. You can't just declare someone out of the fold of Islam unless you've spoken to them clear cut. Some people, I'll be honest with you, they belong to these groups and they don't know what their beliefs are. Such people might really be believers. You have to go up to them and say, do you categorically believe in this? So do you deny this? Do you deny the 5 daily prayers? Because the Quran never doesn't say about 5 daily prayers. If he says, I deny the 5 daily prayers, I only believe in just prayer, that person is out of the fold of Islam, unanimously. But if he says, I believe in 5 daily prayers, but then he says, I don't believe in the sunnats and the nawafil and this and that, you can't tell him that he's out of the deen. You've got to specifically go into question by question into these. About Hizb ut-Tahrir, the question is about Hizb ut-Tahrir and about them. Now, brothers of Hizb ut-Tahrir, I've been close to many of those brothers. First thing I will say to you is that speaking to a member of Hizb ut-Tahrir and speaking to a common person of Hizb ut-Tahrir is like looking at the sky and looking at the ground. Right? Same as speaking to a Tablighi person off the street and speaking to a Tablighi scholar is as they say in Urdu, Zameen Asman ka faraq hai. Is the difference between the sky and the earth. Right? So please first look at who you're speaking to, because if you might deny something by just speaking to a person who doesn't know about the group. First thing is you've got to speak to the members of Hizb ut-Tahrir. If you speak to an honorable member of Hizb ut-Tahrir who studied their usuls, who studied their group, who knows the works of Taqiyuddin Nabahani rahimahullah, who's looked at their principles and how they come together, I will tell you, I've spent several years with these brothers. They have got a lot of common things between most other people. Right? In fact, their methodology also is common with a lot of other people. You will hear the people of the streets